In the first video, we looked at how to make graph 1, where we showed the effect of controlled breathing on heart rate across every student and every trial number that we had. So this is our graph 1, and this video is going to show us how to make graph 2. The focus of graph 2 is to put the means of the experimental group versus the control group. In order to do that, I'm going to scroll down to my table that has my mean, median, and mode. Since I want my graph to only show the mean, I'm going to click down and select just like that. So I selected the mean for my control group, which was resting heart rate, and the mean for my experimental group, which was after controlled breathing. Next, I'm going to repeat the steps that I did in my previous graph. Insert chart. It will open my chart editor. I'm going to double check that I have the chart type that I want. So scroll down, select column again. I can see that it has my legend up top. So it has my resting heart rate in blue, which was my control group, and then heart rate after controlled breathing in red. But once again, I need to change my chart title and change my vertical axis title. So I come back over to customize. And for my vertical axis title, which is the first one that's been selected, I'm going to change that to heart rate. And then for my overall chart title, it's going to have a pretty long name. So I'm going to delete what I have, and I'm going to update it to graph 2, means of resting heart rate, the control group, and heart rate after controlled breathing, the experimental group. So it's a pretty long chart title, but it's describing what the control group is and the experimental, and being clear that the mean is being shown. Just like that, I have my chart all set up. So I'm going to close out of my chart editor, quickly check that it looks to be accurate. So compare it to the data that I have. It should have shown 69.2 for the resting heart rate. And looking over, I can see it graphed that correctly. And then it should have been 63.2 for the experimental group, and that looks accurate. So from these two videos, you should now have two charts that give you an overview of your independent variable versus your dependent variable. So if I look at these charts right here, I could start to make my conclusions. I can see that the mean is higher in the control group than it was in the experimental group, which tells me right then and there that my independent variable of controlled breathing decreased heart rate. If I look at graph 1, I can see a similar trend where in most cases the blue bar is higher than the red bar. In other words, the resting heart rate was higher than the heart rate after controlled breathing. So we will practice this in class together. Just the purpose of these videos was to give you an overview of how to make these graphs. So that way when you're working with your team on this, you can reference back and see how to make a strong graph for your lab report.